Hi, Eugene. Hello. I can see you now.
Hi, Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you very, very well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Fantastic.
Marvelous. Well, Eugene, I've got to say that we are already on Facebook Live
Okay.
and also on Zoom. And so are you ready to start?
Yes, I am ready to begin.
Marvelous. Well, thank you for joining me, Eugene. For those that
Most
are
welcome.
here, my name is Kevin Anyango. I live and work in London. I'm the co-founder of Mtandao Varsity School of Soft Skills.
Yeah.
The platform is basically about trying to show young people what employers are looking for. And this is not just about hard skills or qualifications, but I'm talking about those behaviors, what you call work ethics.
Yeah.
You don't learn in school. It's a hard
Yeah.
continuously build and learn. And today, obviously, I've got you. And please, just tell us a bit about Eugene. And let's go.
I'm a TV producer. I run a TV production company called Documentary and Reality TV. We produce TV shows for almost all the broadcasters in Kenya and some across the continent. We have about 11 TV shows now. Other than that, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a club called Number 7, and I own a farm in Eastania. We do feedlots. So I'm an entrepreneur.
Wow, blimey.
Yeah.
Eugene, I'm a huge fan of yours. And I've got to say that when when your name first came to me, you were very, very young. And I'm told that you're among the very first young people that produce a TV show.
Yeah, I'm 29 years old now, but 7 years ago, when I was 22, I believe at the time I was the youngest Kenyan with a show on TV or national TV. This might have changed now because, of course, because of technology and things like this, people join in quite early. But yes, I was amongst at the time I was the youngest producer with a show on Kenyan TV.
So how did you convince people to give you that check at 22?
I guess I just, I don't know if I convinced them very much because there's a lot of failures before that. I had been at it for a long time. I just didn't come out of nowhere because I've been in production for 11 years now. So from the age of 17, because this is before I even got my national identity card, I started doing production. When I was doing odd jobs on film sets, I was a spoon swinger. I was an extra on some of these sets. So then by the time I got my first TV show, I had already been in the industry for almost 5 years. So I did come out of nowhere.
Well, listen, you mentioned the word failure, and I don't know. So today in Kenya, there's something trending about art cafe. I'm not going to that, but there are lots of people that just want to make it just like that. Now,
yeah.
At 22, you had your TV show, but you really had failures. How did you cope up with the failures? I mean, you're very young at then.
No, I think the best time to fail is actually when you're young because you have nothing at stake really. When I speak to university students, I always ask them, what's the worst that would happen right now if you started a business and failed? You'll go back to your dorm room. You'll go back to your mother's bedroom. You literally have nothing to lose. You don't even have a reputation because sometimes people are afraid of failure because of the reputation they have. Like right now, if I fail, I won't be on this interview. If I fail spectacularly. But when you're younger, you have nothing to lose. And so at the time for me, I had nothing to lose. I started a bunch of things. I had a tour company that failed terribly. I was taking my friends for trips and then I ended up losing the booze. So nobody was happy. And needless to say, I never got any repeat clients. I had, what else? I've had a bunch of things that failed. I had a place that used to play video games. This one didn't fail per se, but I got over it. I had an event company at some point. I thought tattoos were really cool because I had just gotten my first one. So I had a whole event around tattoos. It didn't work out very well. I made some money, but it failed as well at the end of it. So at the time, there's nothing to lose. You're young. What's the you just go back to class and act like it never happened.
I like that. I wish someone told me that 10 years ago. I'll be very far. I like the way you have said, you've got nothing to lose. You are learning, you're trying to find your space. Listen, I'll go straight to the point. COVID-19 now, lots of people are losing jobs. Even people that are looking for work, now they're anxious. What should young people do now?
There's a quote I read somewhere that in time of a crisis, the thing to be is proactive because hope is not a strategy. So the thing is, what you were doing before, the world hasn't really stopped. The world has just changed in how it's doing things. And I feel like a lot of young people are sitting at home thinking, waiting for the world to open up, so to speak. But this is not going to happen because you see, the world is moving on. It's just moving on in a different way. So my advice would be proactive. Be proactive. Just wake up every day, create a routine, find ways of keeping mentally sharp. And sorry, my phone here keeps ringing. Find ways of keeping mentally sharp and also physically fit, and just be proactive. Keep trying out new things.
Wow. Now, look, lots of people have been talking about, well, actually in Kenya right now, maybe in Africa, lots of young people are investing a lot in education. You hear people going for the bachelor's degree, immediately they do their master, they're talking PhDs. But they are not employable. And this one now, I want to talk about soft skills. There are those things, as I say, that you don't learn in school, you develop them. Talk about your experience. I mean, it's, obviously now you know what you do, you know your trade. But when you are starting now, how do your personality help you to create what you've created now?
One of the things that I learned very early on was the importance of communication. Lucky for me, growing up, I was very solitary as a child, so I had a lot of time to read books and stuff like this. And one of the things that I learned very early on was to communicate properly, to not use, for example, a lot of, in Kenya, for instance, a lot of people will use lingo from their neighborhoods. A lot of people will use slang and casual language when they're speaking to people. So like I have people who pitch things to me and they'll start with bro. Like, I'm not your brother, I'm not your bro at this very instant in a professional setting. So one of the things that I learned very quickly on was the right language to use, and to be able to communicate efficiently without a tie down of your neighborhood lingo, which I find gets a lot in the way. So that was one. Of course, writing your ideas well on a piece of paper also does help a lot. Politeness, timekeeping. These are things that I started, and I think this is pretty much the things you can teach yourself. Speaking well, showing up on time, learning how to communicate properly in writing and in speech, being respectful to others using the word thank you and please, learning how to word an email, learning the difference between casual communication and official communication. So all those things, and I believe these things you can teach yourself.
Well, I like the way you mentioned about how to write an email. So look, if there's a young guy, somewhere in Nairobi, listen to you right now, and he's saying, well, I don't have an opportunity. How do I get this opportunity? What do you tell him?
Nobody, there's nobody gives you opportunities, the world owes you nothing. The advice to me for that would be also, again, just be proactive. The world owes you nothing. There's no opportunities that were promised to you when you came here. You have to go and find them yourself. Nothing comes to you. You have to go and find it. The thing is, a lot of young people feel entitled to stuff, entitled to opportunities, entitled to jobs, entitled to success. And the thing is, the world owes you nothing. That's just the harsh reality of it. I personally, sorry?
I think that's a bit harsh, no?
Well, do you want the soft lies or the harsh truth? Because for me, like, I'll give you an example. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. Of course, there's some benefits that I have. I have some privileges here and there. But the thing is, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I work out. I read before. By the time it's 8 a.m., I've already worked out. I've read. I've done about an hour of work. When I was starting out, I used to walk many kilometers to get to where I needed to be when I didn't have transport. And the thing is, it's not to say that the world is not unfair. The world is unfair, and a lot of the times you don't start out at the same level. Sometimes you're disadvantaged, but nobody's coming to save you, and that's a harsh reality that people need to, especially when you're younger, that you need to learn very quickly. And of course, if you have a well-off family, well and good, power to you. If you have a rich uncle, well and good, power to you. But if you don't, like I did, you sort of have to learn that only you can pull yourself out of the situation.
Wow. Just about to finish, Eugene. Just to go back, you started. So you talked about, you mentioned that the world owes nobody nothing. So you've got to go out, you've got to be proactive. And also, you talked about when you're young, there's no point of worry. Go out and do it. You've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this. So I follow you on social media, and I think today you are meeting Kalonzo Musyoka. What are you talking about? You don't mind me asking.
I'm part of His Excellency's team that's assisting in different things, communication and strategy and things like this. But above all, we're also shooting a very beautiful documentary about his life, an autobiography on where he began, how everything is, how he's gotten to where he is. A lot of people don't know, but he's actually contributed very heavily towards the development of this country, both for his people and nationwide. He's worked under 3 presidents. He came to a heartbeat to be to the presidency. And he's a lot of people our generation don't know much about his track record, and so we're trying to make a beautiful story around this.
And Eugene, I've got 2 last questions. Question number 1: young people look at politicians in a not very positive way, and most of the times people associate with politicians when they want something. So what is your take to those people that want to go into politics and they are involved politicians, but they only want to make it quickly?
I don't know about the making it quickly, but all I can say is the thing about politics is, and maybe I'm misquoting this. I want to share with you a quote, and I'm not saying it verbatim. The thing is, the people who think they're too clever to be involved in politics and leadership usually give up the power and are led by idiots. Because you see, leadership touches all of us. Whatever the politicians do in parliament or in cabinet, but as the effects of their decisions get to you. So I like to take a more proactive approach. I'm not a politician myself. I have no keen interest in it either, but I am also very cognizant of the role that they play, and I like to be in the room when decisions are made. So I'm constantly, and there's no separating that from politics itself. As to what people perceive of them, of course, it's true. Politicians are dishonest, most of them. There's quite a large degree of corruption in a country like ours. But being indifferent doesn't solve anything. You have to involve yourself in actual civic duty, so that you're part of the change that you want to see.
Wow. Question 2, part A. When you approach people with your projects, how do you do it, Eugene? Because of you're saying that when you started, you had no that rich uncle, the godfather. You went out, and obviously after failing lots of times. But how do, for example, the Soul Generation? How did you make it? How did you ask the TV to actually sign that deal?
So the way I get my deals now is a bit different, and I don't even like to call them deals. The way I get my projects out now is a bit different. With age comes. The longer you've been in an industry and the more your reputation for your workflows, it becomes easier to get things off the ground. So these days, when I have a concept, I'll usually spend quite a bit of time marinating on it. I'll put it down on paper, and then I'll go to the party involved and pitch it to them, usually very casually. Then if they're interested, then we follow it up with some documentation. But I go through the steps as everyone else, which is I come up with an idea, I put it on paper, and I go pitch. If you, a lot of people who work with me on TV shows will tell you, literally I come with a PowerPoint and then my presentation is there and I have my points. It's the same as anybody else. There's really no shortcut to selling your ideas. Of course, usually the tough thing when you're starting out is if you have no reputation, you might need someone to vouch for you or hold your hand. So it helps if you have a reference. But a lot of the times it's just balls. You just have to knock on that door and say, hey, this is my idea. You'll be turned down. You really need a lot of tenacity to keep at it, because you will be disappointed many, many times. And a lot of times also a lot of ideas you think are beautiful are actually not. I've had many of those that didn't turn out to be very smart. So I do the same thing. I knock on doors and I pitch, but I prepare as hell. I come very, very prepared with, so that if you give me that 5 minutes of your time, I will sell you whatever it is I'm selling you, and hopefully you buy.
Wow. Eugene, when you are named, so Forbes Magazine have written about you twice. What's the feeling
Actually,
about?
I think more than that. They've listed me twice, but they've written about me quite a few more times than that.
Oh, wow. I get my facts straight. So the very first time, 2016?
Yes.
Right. How did you feel when someone told you, "Oh, dude, you were in Forbes magazine"?
First of all, the interview, of course, was done by. So the first list I was on 2016 was the 30 most promising entrepreneurs under the age of 30 in Africa, and the list is done by a friend of mine. His name is Mfonobong Sehe, and Mfonobong and I interrupted because I used to do a TV show called Young Rich, which was my first TV show, and we'd profile all these young millionaires. So Mfonobong was very keen to sort of get details about the people I was featuring, to references, to sort of confirm some numbers from me. So we had a back and forth every now and then. So by the time he sent me a bunch of questions on my email, I was like, okay, so who are these for? So that was pleasantly surprised. That was a pleasant surprise. And so of course, once he did the article and it came out, it's one of those things. I think probably the biggest misconception is everybody assumes you're a billionaire or you have all this money in your bank account, which is not really the case because they use quite a few other things to pick who goes on the list. Its influence, it's how much reach does the work you have, how much reach does the work you're doing have, what's the potential of your business and your personality. So it's a bunch of things, but it was quite a humbling situation. I think for me, perhaps the biggest value that I've gotten from being on the Forbes list is being a member of the community. There are all these conventions that I held. You have, there are all these apps that you're a member of. There's these groups. I mean, like I think all the list makers in Africa, we have a group where guys, are talking about their crazy projects sometimes, and you realize you're a very small player. Then of course the conventions, they happen in different places. There's one in Johannesburg. There's one that happens in Israel, and there's one that happens in different cities in Europe. The last couple of years, it's happened in the main one happened in which I attended. I've gone to one in Boston as well. So those tend to be quite something because you get to see all these very, very you meet these very, very high achieving, successful people, and it's quite something.
Yes, I've got to say you are a very, very modest guy. You're not. Listen, I've never, just for our listeners or people that are watching this now, we've never met. And also, I've got to be very truthful. I first wrote to you last year.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to get to you. And you will take some time to reply, but you replied to me. And this I want to tell people again, those who are watching us right now, that if you have something that you want to do, go for it. As you say, there's nothing to lose. And why are you so modest?
I don't think I'm modest. To be honest with you, if people who know me will tell you I'm not modest.
well, to me, I mean, I'm like, I want to meet this guy because we've never met. But the way you are talking, and you're very straight to the point. You're not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what young people usually lose. Listen, I've been very, very fortunate to do what I do.
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot, and each and every country I go to, mostly in African countries, people always want favors and people want to be told nice things, not hard reality. And it's something that I like to finish up with is being part of a community. And that doesn't mean that you become where you're born, but being part of something. And my last question to you, Eugene, is: so how do you get into these kind of networks then? Do you use your reputation, or do you use people? How do you get to them?
What networks do you mean?
Well, all those things. For example, when you talk about being part of Forbes community, or you're talking about where people pitch their own stuff, like I won't call them WhatsApp groups, but you've got to be invited.
Yeah. No, so for the Forbes convention, of course, once you're on the list, you automatically join the group. So some of these things you've got to be invited. So like once you're listed on these things, you're invited in. I have business mentors, so some of my mentors do invite me to some of their circles. Like last year, for instance, my business mentor is Dennis Makori, took me along to a business forum called Chosul in the south of France.
Yes.
It's quite something. And of course, I got invited there because of my business mentor. There's no formula to enter in these circles. I guess as you build your networks and as you get ahead, you just have to be open for those opportunities. Some of them you have to pay for to attend and apply for. There's really no shortcut, and I don't have a formula as to how I get into this. Some of them I'm invited, some of them I go.
So do you mentor people yourself?
I do, but very reservedly. Reason for this is because, you see, I'm still running a young business, which means, as you rightfully said, it's very difficult to get me to respond to things sometimes because I'm also honestly swamped with my own work.
Yes.
And I find that a lot of people who ask for mentorship are usually not asking for mentorship. They're usually asking for business support, which is very different. I can sit there and run your business with you or finance things. So the way I do mentorship is by allowing conversations like this, where I'm usually always happy to answer questions. Yes. People write to me, I do respond to some of them, dependent on what the ask is. So yeah, I do my small bit, but it's reserved, it's limited because even I'm very weighed down by my own duties.
Of course. Last question from me, Eugene. Can you bring us BN, the South East guy?
Bring him where?
BN, well, to go in the interview, to sit where you're seated.
I can ask. I don't know if I can bring him. I can ask.
Okay. Well, everyone is watching now. So are you promising me that after this call, you'll tell BN, this guy called Kevin wants you to appear on his podcast?
I will not promise, but I will. When I see him next, I will ask him.
Right. Well, listen, I want to say a big thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy guy. As I said, I know you are talking to Stephen Kalonzo today, and you're here talking to me. For those who are listening and watching us, this is Mtandao Bahati. And what I'm trying to do is to show young people that they can also build themselves through those skills that we take advantage of. Eugene, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye-bye. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.